I want to tell you what they're not telling you about VA.gov. If you're watching my video, you're probably into YouTube and learning how things work, and YouTube's a great resource for this. And there's a lot of folks out there explaining how you can use various tools like a Chrome extension or various API hacks where you can kind of look into what's going on underneath the hood of VA.gov to see some more data that may not be explained on VA.gov itself. Now, I've made a separate video explaining why VA.gov is just not an accurate tool. As I said, there's VBMS, the internal system that the VA uses to manage a claims file, and there's VA.gov, and the two are connected with an API that kind of loosely translates what's going on. But what they're not telling you about these things like suspense states, which if you use some of these API hacks, you may be able to see a suspense state as to when the file might be completed. Now, suspense date is an internal date the VA uses as to when something should happen on a file, right? Like, let's say exams come back. Well, there's a suspense date set for a rater to come back and take a look at the file, look at the exams, maybe issue a rating, what have you. That suspense date, though, can get changed in an instant, right? So let's say you've done your exams and there's a suspense date and you've used a suspense date tool to find it in the back end of VA.gov using the Chrome extension and some sort of other hack. You've just found information that could change tomorrow without notice because someone at the VA decided they needed more time to look at the file. Likewise, if your claim's on stage 5 or 6 or whatever these stages are, doesn't mean that it can't move back a stage if someone finds something that needs to happen on it, like a new exam, what have you. So what's the bottom line on this? VA.gov, the information that feeds at the back end, you're not going to get any kind of accurate assessment of what's going on in your file because that information itself on the back end is not accurate. Even if you have access to VBMS, that information changes. Stuff can get pushed back, deadlines get blown. I have seen various cases where suspense states are exceeded by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. Eventually the VA is going to get to the file, but trying to figure out and what the suspense state is and when the deadlines are to figure out when the VA is going to make a decision on your claim, you're going to get very frustrated because that date is fluid. It can change in a heartbeat. In fact, I've heard from former veteran service representatives, VSRs, that those people just go in and change those dates in order to move things along and to make sure the case got touched, whatever. But those dates can change for any reason or no reason. So here's the bottom line. In the end of the day, your claim is about the evidence you submit and the C&P exams that you go to. It could take 60 days to do a supplemental claim or an initial claim even. It could take 6 months. It could take a year. The VA is trying to compress that down to about 120 days. That seems to be their goal, but that can be extended for any number of reasons. You can file something and the VA can work on it for months before deciding that you filed the wrong form. Hopefully that's coming to an end, but that's an issue. Or they could let sit for 90, 120 days before they decide to even order an exam. The case management system that the VA is using is not exactly the most up-to-date and the highest tech. They're working on it and they're debuting a new system, or rather major updates to VBMS in 2026. But again, that's 2026. This is a game of patience. You have to submit your evidence, go to the exams, and wait. Worrying about when the VA is going to decision is only going to create more anxiety. There are a lot of things that you can do to slow down your claim, but there's not a lot you can do to speed it up. Use VA.gov for what it's good for. Getting old decision letters, benefits summary letters, for uploading medical records, what have you, filing new claims. I strongly encourage you to not get into the weeds, deep diving into how VA.gov is displaying suspense dates, because those dates are totally fluid. I hope this was helpful. And if you've been denied or underrated on one of your VA claims, reach out to us. Let's see if we can help. And until next time, take care.